Awesome. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone that is joining us today on this webinar about the Lewis Prize for Music's Accelerator Awards prize process. My name is Annette Fritchie, and we're just pumped to be gathering with you all today. We'll be here for about the next hour to walk you through the process of what the Accelerator Awards are, how to apply for it, and hopefully give you some good feedback and tidbits and answer questions on questions you might have around the process or around questions that we have. Before we get started with introductions and kind of walk through things, we'd love to just start with a poll to know who was out there. We got a handful of you guys out here. We know you're registered from across the nation. We'd love to know during this poll, have you applied for the Accelerator Awards before? There's no requirement. If you apply once, you can certainly apply again. The only people who can't apply are those who have received the $500,000 before. So we'd love to just let us know if you've applied before, your organization has, if you haven't, or maybe you're not sure too. As you guys are submitting those polls, we'll do introductions of the three panelists we're here today. My name is Annette Fritchie. I work for the Lewis Prize for Music, and I'm joining you all from my home in San Diego, California. And joining me is my colleague, Karen Cueva.
Thanks, Annette. Hello, everyone. Pleasure to be with you all today. My name is Karen Cueva. I work on the Lewis Prize team, both on prize process and knowledge generation, and really excited to share about the prize today. Very glad to have also joining us Camille Jones. Camille, I wonder if you can share a little bit about us and about yourself and what you've done with us on the Lewis Prize.
Hi, thanks for the introduction. I'm Camille, and I'm calling in from Maryland, actually. And yeah, I recently graduated from the University of Michigan with my master's in violin. Yay! So and I have been working with the Lewis Prize as a young reviewer for the past 3 years. So it's been really great getting to know the Lewis Prize better and their values and the amazing work that they've been doing. And yeah, and I'm proud to be, representing them and yeah, to be able to be a part in some way.
Thanks, Camille. We're glad to have you. She says she's a recent graduate, guys. She graduated on Friday with her master's. So congratulations. All right. So today's conversation, we're going to walk you through just a couple different things. We're going to tell you more about who the Lewis Prize is. We'll give you an overview of this grant award cycle and application process. And then it's open for question and answers too. We will start the Q&A off with some questions that have been submitted with your RSVPs or to our info box. And then there's the Q&A button at the bottom. Throughout this whole presentation, please feel free to type in any questions that you have or clarifications. We can make sure we hit that.
Great, and many thanks for folks who filled out that poll. It looks like about 70% of folks are applying for the first time, which is wonderful. And we're so excited to be able to share with you all about the Lewis Prize and really the topic why we're gathered today, the Accelerator Award process. So a little bit on the Lewis Prize for Music. We're a national philanthropic foundation founded by Mr. Dan Lewis, who has committed $20 million over the course of 5 years. We're currently in year 4. And really the purpose of the funding is to really uplift creative youth development onto a national platform through music, leadership, equity, vision, and systems change, all in service of building more just and fair communities. And throughout this this endeavor of wanting to uplift creative youth development, really having the voices of young people infused in our process. And that means having young people like Camille throughout the reading process, as well as in other facets of our granting. So you'll notice in the next slide, you'll get a snapshot of our team, our board. We're just a couple of the people on this call who are a part of the Lewis Prize for Music. And we're really glad that Alexis and Shanika can join us on the screen. They are so integral to the work that happens day in and day out, and certainly so that this webinar happens. So I wonder if you all wanted to introduce yourselves real quick.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I am Shanika John Jordan on the communications team, and just grateful that you guys are in this space, that we can connect with you in this way.
Hey, y'all. My name is Alexis Jackson. I'm calling you from New Orleans, Louisiana. I serve on the Knowledge Generation team, and I'm also so happy to have y'all all here to learn about the work that we're doing.
Great. And for those of you on the call for the first time engaging with us, you'll notice that our team is distributed all over the country. We are largely a part-time team. So the exception being Deluge Smith, our CEO, who I believe is joining us also on the call today. So such a pleasure to be able to introduce you all to just a window of our larger team. And since you all were so excellent with that first poll, we're going to ask you for yet another poll because we're curious to know, how did you learn about the Lewis Prize for Music? And you've got some options here. We do like to know sort of which pathways brought you to this webinar today. So appreciate your help in filling that out. Great. And I think in the meantime, we can head over to the next slide and share a little bit about the mission and ethos behind the Lewis Prize for Music, and really stating that we believe that thriving and vibrant communities can only be achieved through equitable systems, and that we aim to award ambitious organizations who are already strengthening young people through rigorous and diverse music programs and influencing systems so that all young people can develop greater agency over their lives and contribute positively to their communities. We know that your work is essential to this, and we're so appreciative of the ways that you all are navigating these extraordinary times and centering the real love and care for the young people in your communities. We know that creative youth development also is a term that more or less is not, may be used, may not be used in every context. So for those who want a better understanding of where we're pulling CYD from, we encourage you all to check out the Creative Youth Development National Partnership link there that's online. And the poll results just escaped me real quick. So if someone wants to jump in to share what they saw, that I would appreciate it.
Awesome.
Oh, great.
Majority of you all have heard about us from word of mouth or through other means. So thank you for sharing that. That really helps our communications team as we try to get the word out about this opportunity.
Thanks, Annette. We know that so much of our work happens through word of mouth because a lot of this work is so meaningful and really grassroots. So we really value that. Thank you for sharing that. And of course, the topic that brings us together today, the Accelerator Awards, just to share, this was also mentioned in the video, but we're going to be awarding 3 organizations $500,000 each. And there will be another sort of layer of at least five organizations that will receive anywhere from 25 to 50,000, and then another 12 to 15 organizations that will receive $15,000. In 2022, we were able to fund 20 different organizations. Sometimes it has come up in the past if for those other amounts other than the 500,000, whether folks need to create a different application or create another avenue. You don't. There's just one application, the Accelerator Awards application. These other amounts are designated in those final rounds through the process. So only one application, and we're trying to distill it over time. So I'll pass it now on to Annette so that she can tell us about that process.
Excellent. So yes, how do you get to be a contender for that funding? This is kind of what our process looks like. So right now, since the end of March and through a month from today, June 3rd, the applications are opened. If you head over to getaccepted.com, we'll show the link later, you can apply for this award. There's different parts to the application, 4 parts specifically that you answer and then submit. Once the applications are submitted by 5 p.m. Pacific time on June 3rd, we take those applications and we actually send them out to external reviewers like Camille, who go through. We've got about between 150 and 200 applications have been our history in the past. External reviewers look at those applications, they read through them, and then they recommend a handful of them to move forward. Those organizations are notified. They submit a few more documentation for us. They move on to the semifinalist round. The Lewis Prize, we do some due diligence and look at those for recommendations to then move forward. And then there's a second round of reviewers that are external reviewers also that look at the semifinalist material, and decide which ones most align with the goals of the Accelerator Awards. The last 2 years, those have been about 8 organizations who have been notified as finalists. The finalists are notified and then they submit a larger application, an RFP. They have about 6 weeks to do so, and they also host a virtual site visit for our team. We compile all of that material, notes from the site visit, their RFP, their first round application, and then those are given to an external review panel of 5 of the finalist team. There's 5 people on the finalist panel that look through all of those materials of the finalists' organizations, and then they make their final recommendation to the board of directors. So that's kind of what the process looks like. As I was talking through that, let me just share some key dates for this year. The dates for this, like we said, the first round of applications are open right now until June 3rd. So if you're planning to do this, make sure you get your application in by June 3rd. The first round will be reviewed through the month of June, and then we will notify those organizations that are moving forward by July 5th. The organizations that move forward will have like pretty much the month of July to submit their additional materials. They'll be reviewed through August, and then we notify the finalists in the middle of September. So there'll be between 8 and 12 organizations that'll be finalists. They'll have September and October to do that RFP, request for proposal, to host the virtual site visit. And then the finalist review panel reviews all of that information from the end of October and November. And then we notify the organizations that are the finalists in December where they land, if they receive the $500,000 or if they receive the $25,000 or $50,000 awards. And then we publicly make the announcement in January. That'll take place in January 2023. As you're going through this, the application, you're thinking about, what do I include in my answers? We just really encourage you to hit some of these resources. Check out our website. There's a lot of different links on there that tell you more about what the goals of the Lewis Prize are, what some of the other organizations that have been funded in the past. You can see who those organizations are. You can see what they stand for, how they're partnering, how they're serving young people, how young people are serving in those organizations. Those will be great. We have frequently asked questions on the website regarding this application process. And ultimately, if you still have questions or you're not sure if you fit into this or not, please contact us. There's a contact page. We'd love to hear from you. And just let us know if any of the questions that you have, concerns, or just want clarification around something. Karen and I receive those and we get back to everybody. And we also want to draw your attention to number 4 here. Our knowledge generation team published last year, it's called the Midcasting Report. And it's a report that looked at a number of creative youth development organizations. Many of you probably on this call are awardee organizations, and just kind of took what are those organizations doing? What are some similarities between them that stand out of not only serving their communities and their young people, but also taking that platform of their organization and leveraging that for systemic change and for justice and equity. So check out the Midcasting Report. And like we mentioned too, look at past awardee videos and essays to learn more about what they are doing and see kind of how you resonate. We don't want you to change what you're doing, but it'll just kind of give you context of maybe how you can share that with us. Great. And then as you move on to the applications, we just want to show you a few key takeaways from the past too. Most of you guys haven't applied in the past, but if you have, for those of you that have, you will notice that this year's application, it has fewer long answer questions. We really take the feedback that you all give us as applicants, as application reviewers, and we try to make those changes so that we are serving the field, that the Lewis Prize doesn't exist for ourselves, we exist for you. So we have fewer questions we're asking. If you've applied in the past and you use the same login, there will be pre-populated answers into your application that will hopefully cut down time that you're spending on this. And then we're also here to give you more webinar support too. There is one of the sections of the application are musical uploads. We asked for 2 examples of young people performing music. We'll explain more about that in a little bit. But we do encourage you, when you get to that part in the application, try to not do it on the very last day if possible. We encourage you to do the musical uploads in your application earlier. I'm not sure if you'll know this or not, but fun fact about granting applications, most applications are submitted in the last 4 hours of the deadline. I can relate to that for just many things in my own life too. So I share that as in the server of accepted, it might get bogged down. And we've heard that from applicants in the past. So particularly if you're putting in your musical examples, please do that earlier. It'll help. And then as you're looking at the long answer questions too, which we're going to go over in a little bit too, we really think we've filled out this application for ourselves. We've had other people do it too. It should take between 2 and 4 hours. If you find yourself spending days upon days with this, just take a breather and sit back. We really just want to know who you are and just the values behind your work. What is driving you behind that? That's what we're looking for. It doesn't need to be well polished. We're looking for the heart behind your work. So 2 to 4 hours should be there. And then Camille, will you share about a little bit more from a reader perspective, a reviewer perspective of just racial equity and diversity and youth voice in the application?
Yeah, thanks, Annette. So as a reviewer, we've tended to value specificity in applications. And so really specifying exactly how is that REDI work reflected in the leadership and hiring process. And that can also be through like documenting like with actual statistics and like percentages or polls. We've also value, and so having that sort of language throughout, like constantly referring back to what those REDI values are, and also having a very specific audience that you're targeting as well. And in terms of youth leadership, we've tend to like value again, that specificity. So like not just all of our students are leaders and we value everyone's opinions, but like how exactly racial equity, diversity and inclusion for the question in the comments. Yeah. Yeah. But language that is very specific, like how is that youth leadership impacting the decision making in the organization. And we've also really valued, or in using language talking about youth leadership, we valued like language that targets the well-being of the youth. So like social emotional learning, and especially for youth who may not necessarily like have an outlet outside of their home or school. So those are a few of the takeaways that I've had as a reviewer in the past.
Thanks, Camille. All right, we're going to move on now to who is eligible to apply. Karen, tell us about that.
Certainly. And I know, appreciating the questions that are coming through the Q&A portal. Please keep those coming. We're going to address those at the end of the presentation. So thanks for those who are already joining in through that. So yes, the eligibility of who can submit an application for the Lewis Prize for Music. Just a note that the youth in an organization must be in the age range of 6 to 21 years old. Your organization can work with young people under 6 or over 21, but we're asking for the majority of young people to be in that age range. Also, we know that programs are incredibly structured in many different ways. We do ask that young people must be learning, creating, or performing music for at least 50% of their overall participation time. For the program and the work itself, it has to have been underway or in operation beginning in or before 2017. We ask that organizations be independent 501c3s or have a partnership with a fiscal sponsor. If you have any questions around that, please email us. I think that's going to be our refrain today, is just reach out if you have any of these eligibility questions as well. If the work is in the US or the US territories, and the young people it serves reside in the US or the US territories, that the work operates independently of schools or school music programs and operates out of school hours. That's a very important point. If you have more questions on that, do reach out. And that also the work provides consistent ongoing participation and opportunities for youth that sequentially build skills and relationships over time, ideally over years. So if you have a one-time workshop, you've got short-term sort of intensive workshops, or if you have summer camps, unfortunately you are not eligible. We are looking for creative youth development programs that do have that sustained engagement with young people over the course of the year. And we do ask also that at least 40% of the board of directors and or management staff reside in or represent the community served. We keep that language intentionally broad because we know that that means a lot of things to a lot of different communities. There's no need to email us to ask so-and-so lives in this zip code. We're going to trust applicants on that. If you feel that your board of directors and management staff reside in, at least 40% of them reside in or represent the community served, then by all means, continue filling out the application. And also on the next slide, you'll see that this is specifically for leaders. So by leaders, we mean for organizations that have more than one person reporting directly to the board. The leader eligibility might be interchangeable. So again, this is just another one of those questions where please do reach out. But we do ask that leaders write the application. We do that because we want to create as equitable of a round one as possible. We know not all organizations have grant writers. So we're also seeking to understand the perspectives around systems change and so many of these other topics we're going to dive into from the leader's perspective. We also ask that the leaders have been in their role of the leader of the organization beginning in or before 2020. We ask that leaders reside in the local community where the work and program is located. Again, we're keeping that broad. That is, just based on self-determination for the organization. And once again, we're just defining leader as someone who reports directly to and is solely supervised by the board of directors. This may have the label of executive director, may have a different label, but we are seeking for someone who is supervised by the board. So in any case, that's a little bit on the eligibility, and happy to pass along back to Annette.
All right. So you've learned about the Lewis Prize, you've learned about Accelerator Awards, you see that you are eligible, you meet those things. So now it's time to start the application. The application is an online application. It runs through the portal accepted.com. So there's a link on our website that you can go to, and it will send you right over to it. This is what it will look like when you get to the Lewis Prize accepted page. On the left-hand side there, you'll click start the application. You will choose the box for 2023 Accelerator Awards. We know it's 2022, but we awarded in 2023. So choose 2023 and then start the application there. Hit the apply. So on this next page here, if you've applied in the past or you've used accepted for other things, you will just be a returning applicant. If you're a brand new applicant, you'll create your account on the bottom. Now, this next slide, for all of you that have not applied in the past, this is a really important slide for you, okay? It's just the way that accepted is set up, it makes you choose one of these. You're either applying for yourself or you're applying for someone else. We understand that with the Lewis Prize, you all are applying for your organization. So that might make you want to choose the one on the right, but please don't, for this sake, choose the one that says I'm applying for myself. Just think I'm applying for my organization. That means myself for this sake. And then everything will be set. You choose the other one, you're going to have to go back and redo it again. So new applicants, apply for yourself. Once you're inside the portal, it'll all make sense that it's your organization. You will see this is the very first page when you get in there. On the left-hand side, you'll see 1 through 5. It's 1 through 4 sections of our application. The fifth is preview. And so the first one are the eligibility questions. That first number 1 there, actually, if you can just go right back, Alexis, thanks. Eligibility questions, it's everything Karen just said. So this page, it'll take you 20 seconds. Just make sure, are you the leader writing this application? Yes. If you're not, send it to your leader to write, please. So the goal of the eligibility, you've really got to answer yes to all these questions. If you can't, maybe you're a summer camp program only, and so you're not eligible for this, please don't continue with the application. Your guys' time is really valuable. You are serving your communities and doing great work. If you don't meet these eligibility, we just really encourage you to not try to sneak in, because we do our due diligence on this, and they're here for a reason. So eligibility shouldn't take you too long if you're eligible. Answer yes, and then it goes on to the next section, which is general information. The general information section, it's just kind of the who, what, why, and where. So it's your name, it's your address. It's kind of stuff if you had a TV show on in the background, you could fill it out. It'll take you 10 minutes, is the general information section. And then the crux of the application is that 3 and 4, the long answers and the application uploads. So we're going to go through the long answer questions with you right now and give you some context on what they are. So the first long answer question is about organizational overview. Karen, tell us more.
Sure thing. So under organizational overview, we're asking applicants to tell us about your organization, tell us about the young people, tell us about your team, your music program, and your well-being supports. What we're seeking here is for applicants to share how your program is relevant to your community. And under the next slide, we're going to be asking around systems change. We ask organizations to share about a focus on 2 intersections of systems change thinking, macro systems and civic systems. So examples of macro systems are cultural preservation, racial justice, immigrant inclusion, et cetera. And examples of civic systems include education, child welfare, the justice system, et cetera. So we're interested in understanding how your work is focusing on those 2 intersections. Moving on to the big idea. This is a question that we're asking, what is the vision or the big idea that you have that reimagines or intervenes with systems to achieve equity? So your big idea is probably not your organization's mission statement, and it's also probably not a program or program design. It's also probably not to offer, for example, to offer free tuition for 10 students each summer to our music academy. That is a great thing, but it may not be the big transformational idea that you're seeking to accomplish between your organization and all of the systems that it engages with. So we're going to be actually having a conversation, or actually we have already a conversation, and you all should check out, if you would like, the recorded video of the conversation with our awardees at Beyond the Bars. They were a 2021 Accelerator awardee, and they really spoke beautifully about their organization's big idea and how they wanted to share that in the application. I think they were really generous with their experience. So just an additional resource if you're all thinking, what does that big idea mean for me and my organization? Moving on to the next slide as well, on racial equity and inclusion, we ask 2 questions in the application. We ask the first being, how is your organization representative and accountable to your community in respect to racial equity, diversity, and inclusion? And then we're asking a second question, what does REDI look like in the day-to-day of your programming, organization, and governance? So we're asking that bigger philosophical question, and then also that tangible, what does it look like Tuesday at 4? And happy to pass it on to Camille to talk about youth leadership.
Yeah, so in youth leadership, the Lewis Prize is asking to, or it's asking to tell how your organization centers young people's voices within their artistic practice and organization decision making. And so this can mean, like, how exactly does the youth leadership function within the organization? Is it just there to say you have to, is it there just sort of for show, like, having a youth council as a position, or but do the youth actually have power within the organization? And also I think in addition, when talking about youth leadership, you could talk about how they're not only directly impacting the organization, but also like influencing the surrounding community. And also, how are these youth leadership opportunities providing launching pads for students in their future careers? And how are these opportunities networking them as well, like to the necessary people, like within their community or beyond, that will help them get the exposure or experience that they need for their future goals?
Awesome. And the next question is about community partners. We are looking for organizations that are doing systemic change, and we know that can't happen just solely with your own work. And so we're really curious to know who your partners are that you're working with in solidarity to pursue your big idea and to achieve systems change. Who are those people? Who are those organizations? And what does that work look like reciprocally? How are your partners in the community? How are they calling upon you to help achieve those big goals that are also their goals too, not just yours, not just calling upon each other for kind of transactional stuff, though we know those are necessary partners in certain things, but we're looking for those community partners that are working to also achieve your big goals and big ideas together. And then so that kind of wraps up the long answer questions. And then it takes you, like we said, to the 2 application uploads where you'll upload examples of young people performing music. Camille, tell us more about that. It's the fun part of the application that we get to review.
Yeah, I think the application uploads provide like a really nice sneak peek into just the heart of the organization. I think so. One thing to note is that these uploads don't necessarily have to be like extremely high quality, like they could be just recorded with your cell phone, but the general goal is to just paint a good picture of like what's going on behind the scenes of this organization. And successful uploads, I think, have shown how youth having agency and what they're doing, and they're clearly confident in their abilities and excited about what they're working on, and also like including testimonials from the students and their families and showing how involved the organization is within the community, and how the program has impacted each student's and their families' lives as well.
Awesome. So that kind of concludes just an overview of what the application looks like. Like we shared earlier when we were going through the whole process, the applications are reviewed by external reviewers. It's not reviewed by our board of directors. They certainly approve it, but it's external reviewers who are looking at this. People like Camille. We have young adults and older adults. Camille, give us a sneak peek. Who is the review panel? What does that look like?
Yeah, so the Lewis Prize values a team, getting input from a team from a diverse range of experiences, and including like age, geographical location, gender, race, and just general lived experiences. And in the last round, we had, or the last year, there were 24 reviewers, with a third of them being between 18 and 24, and 2/3 25 and up. These reviewers have ranged from coast to coast. They've lived in like cities and rural communities. And yeah, so a lot of, these reviewers also are people like me who are, college students, and people who are also very experienced with their, someone commented. Oh yes, okay, sorry. Who are very experienced in and leading organizations as well. So yeah, it's a really cool collaborative experience where we all get together and review these applications and share ideas. So yeah.
Thank you. There have been some outstanding questions that have been coming in through the Q&A, and we're excited to answer those. Before we jump into the ones that have just come in right now, we are going to circle back real quick. When some of you all RSVP'd for this webinar, you submitted some questions, and then we've also been receiving questions at info@thelewisprize.org. And so we're going to kind of hit on those first. And as we're doing this, please keep sending your questions in as well. I do just want to comment that we will share the slide deck with everybody who registered for this webinar. So you will get this in email. And then if you submit a question in the Q&A and we don't get to it, we will reply to it and we will send out those questions to everybody who has registered for this too. So we're going to respect time and try to get to all of this too. Karen, will you lead us off with the first question?
Sure. And just to clarify as well, like if there are very, very specific, my organization is questions, we encourage you, like we are going to respond to these questions. If more of those questions emerge, you know, tomorrow during your lunch break and you're like, oh, I have this question, please email us. We're going to take this time to also answer more broad questions that hopefully speak to the wonderful folks in the room broadly. One of those being really understanding the role of the leader in the organization. And a lot of the inquiries that have been received over the past few weeks are speaking to that organizational structure and leadership. We know that there are so many different structures for organizations doing creative youth development in the United States. A lot of these titles like executive director, these may not apply to everyone, but we are asking that the leader report to the board. If your leader, for example, is on a sabbatical, if you have an interim leader who is reporting to the board, we encourage that person to write the application. Also, you know, if you have a lot of maybe a number of people who are in that leadership slot, but maybe only one of them reports to the board, we want that person to write the application. If you're feeling like there is a specific to your organization that is particularly unique, then we encourage you to reach out because we want to get to know organizations and you know, really support. I mean, that is really the purpose of our team, is to ensure that folks are having the most smooth process in filling this all out. I also just want to note that I did see a question earlier about someone who was saying that they're, you know, the grant writer and that should they sort of write yes for that first round. We are asking leaders to write that first round. Yes, we are going to ask the leaders to do that. For anyone who is a grant writer, and as the organization proceeds through the process, if they get to the round 2, then that grant writer is more than welcome to join the process. But we do want to keep things as equitable as possible for that round 1 and ensure that we're getting the perspective from the leader of the organization. Annette?
Thanks, Karen. We've had lots of questions about out of school time. What do we mean by that? We understand that lots of creative youth development organizations partner with schools. You might meet in a school, you might have a relationship with schools. That is a great thing, and you are not ineligible because of that. So if you are an independent 501c3 that serves like an entire community, not just that school community, you are probably eligible for this. It's the out of school time is the eligibility is really there. Like, we're not here to serve support like band boosters or like other school music booster clubs that are only for like a certain school community. We know that that's a really valuable resource, but that's not what the Accelerator Awards are for. So partnering with schools and offering just other services kind of in that school community, like that is still eligible. We've also had a handful of questions that are asking about like, what is the specific date that we're looking for if you've been doing your work in a certain amount of time? Like we say, the leader has to have been in place since 2020. That's pretty clear, I think, or we try to be pretty clear that the leader must be reporting solely to the board of directors since at least 2020. And then we say that the work must be in place since 2017. The way that we check that, rule of thumb, the way we check that is if you're a 501c3, that it checks out with the government that you've been doing that work since 2017. We know that that's not the case for everybody, and so there's space for that. some people were a volunteer organization for a number of years and you didn't get that official designation. Let us know that. Maybe you have web presence that shows that. Maybe you can just explain that. There is a portion in our application that says anything else the Lewis Prize should know. If your date isn't quite clear with IRS funding or notification, just let us know that so we have full context of how long you've been doing the work and when that's taken place. It doesn't have to be official, and we absolutely support fiscal sponsored organizations. And so we know that that might not be documented through the IRS too. So just let us know that. And we just ask that the music work has been taking place since or before 2017.
Just noting a question around organizations that are serving both virtual and in-person settings. We so appreciate the ways in which creative youth development programs have in many ways been on the front edge of pivoting programming and making sure that young people are being served in ways that are really essential during these extraordinary times. Of course, we don't have I will say a particular designation. We do value the in-person experience as that is, something historical over the number of years. Certainly organizations that have a virtual offering are still eligible. So we don't have a particular designation. I do think that there needs to be an in-person element at some point, but if for your organization that is entirely off the table, kindly email us. We want to ensure that we're in touch and that we understand sort of the ways that your organization is running. So hopefully that answers that sort of question.
All right, we have a question asking about summer programs. We know that there are many great summer offerings, and that again is really essential for young people development and places to be. If you are solely a summer program, you are not eligible for this granting cycle. If you're a program that offers summer programming and also offers seasonal stuff that kind of complements and builds on each other, yep, that certainly qualifies for this award.
Addressing the question around whether there needs to be a specifically youth serving organization or can you operate adult programming too? I'll go back to that eligibility requirement around serving folks from the ages of 6 to 21. That doesn't mean that you can't be working with folks under the age of 6 or over the age of 21. But the majority of people served in the organization should be within that age range. We are supporting creative youth development organizations and really believe that young people should be at the center of programming and of really of that moving that work forward. So definitely adults can be served, but we are asking for the majority being youth, 6 to 21.
There was a question asked to clarify the number of organizations that will receive funding this year. We don't have an exact number on that. It will be, I think I wasn't super clear on what I was saying before. More organizations this year will be funded than were last year. Every organization that is a semifinalist, which we expect to be between 20 and 25 semifinalists, will receive at least they will receive $15,000. So semifinalists get $15,000. Organizations that move forward and are finalist organizations, it's anywhere between like 8 and 10 organizations, 8 and 12, we say somewhere in there will be finalists. Those organizations in the past have all received $25,000, $50,000, or $500,000. And so like the $500,000 is the absolute finalists. We are saying that we will be awarding 3 organizations $500,000. Last year, we were able to do 4. We're not guaranteeing we're going to do 4 again for 500,000, but we're not saying no. Publishing 3, guarantee 3. Okay. We have another question that came in that's asking about collaborations between organizations. Collaborations are great. Specifically, the Accelerator Awards are not for a program. And so when you're writing your application, we really encourage you, please don't write about funding for a specific program in your organization. We really want to know about the whole, like the heart and the value behind the entire organization. And so this funding is not restrictive to a specific program. It's really there to help move forward the value and the systems change goals and all the music making that goes behind that too. So in instances of a collaboration, we would ask that individual organizations apply. If you're talking about collaborating with others, that's probably a community partnership that you already have in place. And so you would write about that collaboration that's already in place in the community partner section. The funding, if you receive funding from the Lewis Prize, can you use that in partnership with your community partners? Every organization is different. So likely the work that you're doing is overlapping with others too. And so it would go that way, but we're really going to be awarding organizations. The funding goes to one specific organization, and how they use that, it's specific to each organization for the work that they're doing.
There's a question here around whether we've awarded organizations that provide training in classical performing arts, such as symphony, ballet, or opera. We have actually profiles on all of our past awardees on our website. Strongly encourage you to just check out the wonderful work that they're doing through that website. We also are uplifting creative youth development programs. So at the top we have of this presentation and can also be found through our website, the link towards our definition that we're pulling from for creative youth development. And we also want to hear from organizations how those creative youth development programs are intersecting with the macro and civic systems within their communities that are being experienced by those in the program. And so if your organization through your art form is through this classical performing arts, particularly symphonic, how that is intersecting with those systems, then of course certainly eligible. Ballet is not eligible. We are not awarding organizations in dance. So just to note that as well. And again, if there are specific questions for your organization, we are not holding necessarily Zoom calls during this time because we know that once the application's open, it's just an incredible, flood of wonderful questions, but we will be in touch over emails. So we look forward to receiving your inquiries that way.
We have a question around multi-yearness. If you receive the $500,000, it is for 3 to 5 years. It's specific for whoever is awarded. Some of our $500,000 awardees are 3 years, some are 5 years. We really, later on in the rounds, we have that conversation with you all and your organization to determine what is best for where you're at. And we let the organizations really decide that for themselves. Again, we don't ask in the application, in this first round application or even semi-finalist round, what you would use the funding for. This first round of application is really a chance, as Camille and as Karen were sharing, for you to just share about who you guys are as an organization, how you are working with young people, how young people are leading, and what that big idea is you have, and how you're leveraging your work in youth music for equity and for justice, and to make changes in your community.
There's a request to show once again the slide, which is internally for our team, slide 27, regarding the application uploads. I wonder if we can post that up one more time so folks can see. This is also detailed through the accepted platform. And just to note that I don't know if this was mentioned already, but just to reiterate, we are asking for 1 to 2 minute samples. of this work. And we know that there are incredible clips of 10 to 12 minutes and beyond that, that folks I'm sure would love to share. A note that the external readers will be reviewing 1 to 2 minutes of that application upload. So we do ask that it be contained to that time limit. Even if you post one that is longer than that time limit, 1 to 2 minutes will be reviewed. And just to note that usually, as has been mentioned before, a lot of folks do tend to wait until that final night is due to upload everything. We encourage you not to do that. That's going to really overwhelm the accepted server. And we want to ensure that everyone is able to submit with peace of mind that the application came through. And so kindly, if you're able to upload that earlier on in your process, we definitely encourage that. Seeing here, Camille, a question for you. As a reader, how heavily does the intersection of community engagement weigh in on decisions to move organizations forward to the next levels? And are there some exemplars of past language and thoughts from past applicants that we can draw on? I think that that second portion might be a bit too broad for right now, but you're welcome to address as you'd like. You're muted, Camille.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I would say that community engagements do weigh heavily on how we view these applications. And I think like showing like a diverse range of how you're collaborating within the community, like you know, at the local level, having like whether that be working with like a co-op or like a library or like the or like the, you know, your state like government or whatever, working at like the state level and things like that. And yeah, so I would definitely say that having various different like ranges of input when it comes to your community engagement work is valued a lot. And yeah, I mean, the Lewis Prize, they've you know, they've awarded a lot of really amazing organizations that have been exemplars of that. So I would encourage you to just take a look at their past awardees, honestly. Yeah, because there's a lot of them that you could probably draw from just this past year. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Before we wrap up, Karen and Camille, we've got our audience here of potential applicants or applicants. Is there anything you want to just leave them with? Parting words.
I would just say simplicity is key. We're just trying to gauge what your organization is doing for young people and how it's intersecting with the systems that is being interacted with within your community. We want to get a sense of the mission, the values, and the day-to-day. And if there's any way that we can support in doing that through clarifying anything, kindly email us, info@the Lewis Prize. We are more than happy to connect.
I guess wrapping up my last final thoughts. Yeah, thank you all for coming. I hope that this was helpful. And I look forward to, you know, connecting with any of you in the future through the Lewis Prize, whether that's through reviewing reviewing applications or like through another Zoom meeting. But yes, and good luck with the rest of your year and your applications. And yeah, best wishes to you.
Thank you. I want to give a shout out to Alexis and Shanika, who have been back of house on this webinar from our team. Thank you guys for doing this. Those that have been participating in the webinar, thank you for your questions. Thanks for joining us. We are going to respond to all those questions. We will send out a link to this recording. We will send out our slide deck to you, and we will continue to answer those questions. As Karen said, if we didn't get to your question or there's something really specific of like unique about your organization, we'd love to clarify that. Send us an email at info@thelewisprize.org. I just want to leave you with, you all are doing incredible work. It is always such a joy, and to just hear about what is taking place in coast to coast, small communities, large communities. It's all unique and it's really beautiful. It's super encouraging and inspiring, and keep doing it. Thank you for the opportunity to learn about it and for partnering with us here at the Lewis Prize. We'll talk to you all soon. Thank you.